everybody. Josh here with Inktology, and had a fun night drawing with the start of this Wolverine piece, and I've kind of detailed him in a little bit today at work, and that's where I'm at. Or actually, last night when I was watching a Japanese film called Perfect Days. Great film. Is it Perfect Days? I don't know. Anyways, great movie. No talking in it, hardly. Anyways, today's a special day. I am going to be finishing up this piece real quick. It's just a fun comic book piece, not my best Wolverine in the world. But every once in a while, just because out of Deadpool and Wolverine, I wanted to put him on page and draw him. Why is this camera so dark? But also, I want to talk about something really cool, in which I wasn't sure I was going to talk about, but I think it's the best way to do it is do it through this live stream, so you guys can just go through the full process of how to create a comic book, my entire process, so you're not missing out on anything. I think one of the biggest issues is that I'm going to have to make a small video about my process, you know what I mean? So that people can get a real quick, maybe 20-minute rundown of the whole thing of how to make the comic book. But I think a live stream is going to be the best way for me to not only encourage and help anyone who wants to make a comic book, but also to help encourage myself to complete it. I have never got my comic book published by a big company, and this one I'm thinking about submitting to Image Comics or Top Cow. Actually, yeah, either of those two. I know the Image is probably an easier route. It's still a difficult one, but it's based off a concept. It's based off of a few things, and I watched a couple YouTube videos today. One in particular that was just a gentleman who went through the whole idea of how he was trying to submit and what they were requesting. He went through the form online and read it out, and I thought it was very impressive and cool, and it encouraged me a lot to pursue this. So while I'm drawing this and kind of finishing up on this Wolverine sketch, I'm going to be talking about my next project. And I'm going to be reviewing some of my other comic books that I enjoy. So sit back, grab a pen, pencil, whatever you feel like drawing with, and, let's draw, let's have fun. So I'm going to grab a couple of my pens here. I'm using Micron. Micron is a fantastic pen. I really enjoy it. It seems to last me forever. I know some people don't prefer it, but I prefer it, so. And if you're interested in card games and board games, I have a card game that has a tournament that starts tomorrow. It's free to join. It's a cool game. Well, I guess you need my cards in order to play. But if anything, go to IamChampionTCG.com and you can order a pack through them. They're a little bit more, I guess, expensive than a normal trading card game because they are thicker cards. They are heavier duty. They are original arts that are based off of something that can be implemented into a board game that we have coming out this year. So anyways, if you don't want to do all that, check it out. It's still awesome. The artist is Jesse Perry. He is a Houston artist who is phenomenal and super creative. Our content is hilariously retro, so if you're a retro, dig into it, dude. But let's begin. Okay, so I detailed him in last night, halfway asleep through most of it, but what I want to do tonight is just kind of go through and draw I want to do like these scratchy marks, cross-hatching marks behind the schninked, which is actually kind of funny because yesterday, the guys that were on the chat, they said, what does TF, who is also another artist on YouTube, he mentioned a joke going, what's Wolverine's favorite candy bar? Sninkers. Very funny. And I was like, what's a sninked? Like, it didn't click with me. But then I realized I actually have, it's true. It's sninked. Snicked. I don't know how you say it. Snink. I guess that's what's going to be fast. Snink. But I had this Wolverine piece here, and I could have totally went through this. Now, this comic book I'm gonna rate some of these comic books, and I apologize if you enjoy them and I don't, or you think otherwise. The art inside is fantastic. It's great. It's good for a comic book. It's got quality art for the most part, but it's not something I fully enjoyed as a reading it. I didn't think it was that great. Some of these scenes are great. Wolverine looks good in it, but I really like his pose. But here's a fun thing. In the front page here, they actually used it on the spread in the center right here, which, you know, nothing's wrong with that. I just find it to be a little bit, you know, I'd expect a little bit better than that. I am happy to write my own comic and develop it. Now, I got this one free, but I want to talk about something real quick before I start drawing. Doing a comic book or a graphic novel is something that I think for many artists they feel is overwhelmingly difficult, maybe, or intimidating. I want you to know that it's not meant to be. It's meant to be a self-expression on writing, visual arts, and everything. This is called Red Dawn. I haven't actually read this one. I'm going to go through it. It's something about Russia, something about the Soviet Union, I think. I'm not sure. The art style inside is very kind of like an old 80s look a little bit. Coloring is a little bit more modern. But you can tell with kind of like the more fluid drawings, the artist has got this kind of old school vibe to it. It's kind of nice. But the price down here says $12.95, so $13 for a 2020. Let's see, how many pages is this? It actually doesn't say. Oh my gosh, Kingwood, Texas. No way. Look at that. Must be Houstonian because maybe that's where I got at the Houston art place. But Kingwood, that's near where I grew up actually. That's cool. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 45. Let's say 40 pages. I didn't count accurately. But a normal comic book, so that one's about 40, which is impressive that he wrote that much. But I have a Moon Knight here I got a while back. It's a second printing, not anything special or anything, but I just like the front cover. This one here is also not a very good comic, but a story I thought. 1, 2, I think that's 3 right there. 4, 5, 6. Oh, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think there's a 9 in there. Totally bent the page. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Anywhere from, let's say 18 to 20 pages. And it's a $5 print. Comic book. Probably because it's Moon Knight. It was popular whenever Moon Knight came out. It's the first edition. The first number 1 issue. It's not a first printing, so probably value is like pretty much useless, but could be. Who knows? So we got a small comic book that's about 20 pages. Then we have something a little bit bigger, which is about, what was that? What did we count? About 40 page. And then we have something like this. I picked this up called Made in Korea because I like to support Korean stories and artists, as I am, half Korean myself. It's about a Korean girl or boy that's trans, I believe, but they feel like a robot in society. I think that's what it is. I have totally forgotten the storyline of this. Yeah, something like that. Or she transitions to a boy. I never know how to address it before and after, present and past. But, ooh, that was a little vulgar. Hopefully that didn't cause any mishaps. But anyways, very cool. comic book, and this one sells for 17. Image put this out, and it's made in Korea. And this is a 1 of 6. So $17 for something that is... Does it say the pages numbers on here? I wish they did. It was just not fair that they don't do that. But it's a hefty one. This one's got to be at least like, I feel like 50 to 60 pages for this graphic novel. Did I like this comic? No. Unfortunately, I didn't. But it was worth a read. It was really worth trying it out and seeing what someone created. But I'm going to actually go back to this story in a second, as well as another comic book everyone does know. There's two more comics. Hey Pepe, how's it going? Whoa. Katse, nice to meet you. Hey, thank you guys. Thanks for joining. I'm just going through some of these comics right now, kind of talking about my future comic I'm starting hopefully tomorrow. But this is some of my favorite ones and ones that I've enjoyed. You're right, there is no price too high for something that's beautifully well done. And I love giving books a chance. Now, someone at a comic book store recommended Stray Dogs to me. This is put out actually by Image as well, who I'll probably be submitting this comic book to. But this was fantastic. Actually, this was marvelous. I love this one so much because the drawings are very Disney-ish, you know? It's playful, yet the dialogue is just on point, and it has diversity in characters, and it really speaks to people who've ever owned a dog and kind of the little nuances to it. But I'm not going to spoil the ending. It is hardcore. It is no joke, and man, it had me like, what on earth is happening? So I think there's a part 2 to it, but it's kind of scary. I never thought I would say that about a cute little dog comic, but so this one's $17 as well, and we're looking at a pretty hefty size book. It's a horror comic. It is for teens. I think the last one that made in Korea was a rated R, an R-rated one, because it had some nudity and stuff like that to it, and vulgar language. I think this has a little bit, but yeah, you see right, a heartbreakingly adorable suspense thriller by My Little Pony comic book artist, which is crazy to think. But Image put this out, and as I've read the instructions on Image of what they're looking for in a comic book, they're looking for something new, they're looking for something fresh, they're not looking for characters or content that's already been made. Like, don't do a Wolverine spinoff, don't do, don't do anything that's already been made by someone else. They're not there to pick that up. But they also don't keep the IP, right? So they don't keep your characters for themselves. You have full control, I believe, to leave them and go pursue other stuff with your characters. Once you give it to them, it doesn't mean that they it's theirs. Images, from what I know, is very cool about that. But they're also picky about what stories they're going to be publishing because they want something that'll be able to sell. And they don't pay you per page; they pay you on the sales that you get when they distribute it. So that's going to be something to think about. I have just 2 more books here. And here we go. So this one I really enjoyed. Someone mentioned this book. It's by James Tinian IV, which I didn't know people still had the 4th. And man, that's quite the lineage of a name. It's called Nice House on the Lake. It is a brilliant horror comic. I'd have to say it's one of my more favorite recent ones. The style's very scratchy, kind of rough, almost like a charcoal pastel. Got a lot of printed scenes, kind of like offside scenes where they're doing security camera dialogue, or where's the other one? Kind of like, this is cool. So it has like a map or some kind of scratchy writings and pictures that kind of get hint to the rest of the narrative. Really, really nice way of introducing side storylines and keeping things a mystery. What to eat during the day, what their food plans are, stuff like that. This gives really good just insight to the characters' lives. And you can see, like, the drawing is very rough, but it goes along with the idea that the main bad guy in the story is confusion almost. Like the confusion of it all is part of the story. And I really enjoyed this. Now this is another hefty one, probably this one's $20, a little bit pricier, but very well worth it. Probably one of my favorite. Fantastic. Definitely got to pick that one up. So what do you guys, what's y'all's favorite comics? Do y'all do comic books or graphic novels? Do y'all have anything in particular you guys enjoy? I'd like to know. I'm about to start. Almost ready. I'm sorry I'm talk heavy today, but I had a lot to think about during. And then we have this bad boy. You know, just a couple pages, not very many. Good grief. I have yet to even finish this comic book, but from what I've read of it already, it is marvelously great. The character development and the characters are just fun to see go through all this stuff. And it's a very big world, which I enjoy. Why I haven't finished it, I got distracted with other stuff. What can I say? But how many pages is this? Who knows? It's a Bible. That's for sure. Headlopper. I'll have to check that one out. Who made the Headlopper? Let's check it. Let's check it real quick right now. Headlopper. Ooh, that's cool. Hey, that's really neat drawing style too. Image Comics does that one. Oh, that's nice. I like this. Ooh, hey, this looks fun. Yeah, I haven't been able to get back to the comic book store in a while, and I've been kind of working on other things in life. But this is really rad. Actually, you know what? I might go pick this up. Maybe I can do it tomorrow after work. That's rad. Headlopper. By Parrott, Gardner, Pearson, and Otsmane El How. Dude, that's rad. I really like the I can see the Hellboyish look to it. Definitely the color schemes got that nice silhouetted dark black and red, and then I can see some of these. I mean, some of these actually, the covers look almost Cartoon Network meets Hellboy, which is very rad. And then the color tones, these are whoever the color artist is, he's on point, or she's on point. Good one. Thank you. I like this. I'm excited to look at this one. All right. Let's see. Okay, so as of that being said, those are the comic books I'm kind of going. I just looked at that story-wise. Oh, really? Interesting. Well, then I might have to check it out. I like Hellboy. Hellboy's is fantastic. Didn't like one of the Hellboy movies that came out. I felt like it was not very, just too nice, I guess. I don't know. The most recent one I liked with, who was it? I forget. I felt like that was more of a comic book style film. But that's great. I'm gonna have to check out Headlopper. Sounds violent. I like good old violent comic books. It's probably why I like Wolverine. He just has anger issues and he's just extremely violent. But yeah, so today, after going through a YouTube video of a gentleman talking about Image Comics and submitting, I had been putting on hold a comic book idea that I've been wanting to work. I've been writing up for the most part in my mind and on paper, but I just have to collect the paper and reorganize it. Is of the stories of Old Testament in the Bible. Now, I love the Bible. I think it's a fantastic storybook. It's probably one of the greatest creations of stories and lore and mysticism and all the fantasies that anyone could ever imagine, with angels and demons and just pure violence and a grotesque. It is extraordinarily violent. I think the Christian community don't accept it for what it is, which is sad because, man, oh man, it is good. especially when you get to the book of Judges, where you have a story called Ehud, where he is this left-handed judge, where they call him a judge after he gets done, stabbing this very fat, he's pretty much a heifer of a king. My brain's not working right now with the name. And the story goes like this, is that Israel is being oppressed by a group, and it's being run by this king who is just gluttonous and lustful, and this one left-handed dude, which left-handed swordsmen or assassins were not very common. In fact, probably, most likely, which I need to research a little bit more, the left-handedness was kind of a sign of ill fate, or wasn't very popular, right? It's probably you need to be right-handed, or maybe not even be of God. You might be of the devil if you have the left hand in a sense. But you could only imagine what that man went through being a left-handed person, and then him being the only person who could utilize his skill being left-handed to sneak into this king's dormitory, get the king to want to, make love to him in the bathroom pretty much, and because the king was very promiscuous, and eventually taking his left hand and where it would be able to pull his knife out of his right thigh and shove it into his stomach so far and deep that when he yanked it out, dung and poop would gush out of the stomach. And while the guards had the doors locked, thinking that they were doing the dirty, and eventually Ehud would escape and get away, and then there would be peace in the land. How crazy is that? Like, that sounds so dope. But what makes me interested in the story is that it's an ancient story of Israel. And Israel, if you've ever played a game called Assassin's Creed, ancient times, there was a lot more revenge and violence in the states, that the countries they had to be creative. The 300 Spartans and the 300, and all these kind of amazing stories. We almost think of them as fantasy, or we almost think of them as almost lore in itself, right? But we have to remember that the Vikings were real, and the 300 were real, and these things were real instances, and they really did these things. Now, maybe movies have dramatized them a lot, but these were real people who died, and these real people who had scary moments, real fear. And I find that the story of Ehud is got to have some sort of beautiful fear to it all, and especially because, like, why would you mention him being a left-handed? Why is that so important? And to me, I would like to bring that to life. A lot of the stories in the Bible have a lot more reality to it than I think people give credit for. Not to say that they're true, not to say that. A lot of it is made up because it is, religious purposes for whatnot. For example, Noah's Ark. Like, most likely that is just a normal made-up story that most cultures have, right? To talk about a flood and then the creation of man and all these jazz. Like, if Adam and Eve really did happen, who was there to document it? Nobody, because they probably didn't speak English. Well, I mean, not English, a language at all, right off the bat. Like, who was there to teach them the language, unless it was just grunting and caveman stuff? But that being said, we can't even keep our stories straight today, much less caveman era. So we can pretty much say that those were all fantasies of sort and ways to talk about history from back in the day when we didn't have television. Anywho, that being said, there is a bit of history that is still attached to those things that I would like to give to. And if you've seen some of my other videos, I've done Horus, I've done what else have I done? I can't even think right now. Horus was an example for Egyptian gods. They worshipped a Horus and Osiris and Iris and Set, and these things to those people were real. Now, obviously, there's not a Birdman controlling Egypt, and it was more of a symbol for the pharaohs that would take over. But how cool is that to write that down and have that part of your country's history? And for Israel, they have a lot, and I think there's some truth to some of it, because those kings did exist. Now, was there really a left-handed dude who tried to sleep with the king in order to kill him so that way he could sneak out the window and set Israel free? I don't know. I don't know. I have to research that. And until we find out the archaeological finds, it's lore to me. So I get the opportunity to create that in a fashion that would possibly be something intriguing to both the religious people and those who are not, as well as keep it rated R. I am not a fan of PG-13 stuff. I want violence, blood, gore, and all the rest. So Image Comics does produce that kind of stuff. Now, I have to be careful not to get too controversial because allegory. I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you very much for reminding me how to speak English again, because my brain doesn't work when I'm drawing or trying to speak. It's like trying to do three things at the same time. Lots of allegory. And I would like to make that more of a, as a kid, I actually grew up in the church, and the church would, I mentioned this before, make me throw away all my comic books and all my Star Wars action figures and all my, pretty much everything I owned that had to do with anything creative, because they thought it was the devil. I was raised in a Southern Pentecostal, kind of setting, so they hated me drawing Wolverine. I pretty much get beaten for drawing that kind of stuff, but I loved it. I loved like demons and angels and Wolverine, and had so many good pieces. But I think what it was that my way of interpreting these stories that people were saying was true, yet had zero proof of it being true. So I drew them out. And I never got to finish it because, well, the church can be jerks sometimes. So I have, now that I'm older, I can actually return to it, and hopefully kids and people who enjoy these kind of things and want something more tangible and real, feeling at least a little bit, could have it. And I'm willing to do it. I have to be careful not to piss off a whole bunch of Christians, that's for sure, or Jews, either way. Because I can get it all wrong, and they'll be like, no, that's not how it actually happened. And I'm like, well, it doesn't matter what you think, because you can't really verify any of it. But I love a little controversy in life, Comic books are the best for that kind of stuff. They bring out the best in social commentary and political commentary. So that is the plan. But the thing is I'm not sure if I want to start with Ehud. Welcome TF. Suggest listening to an hour of the Time radio cast, The Occult Origins of Man. Trust me, they have. I'm sure they do. Well, then again, everyone thinks they have an answer for how man was created. I'm a big science guy. I love archaeology, and I love nature and discovery and Nat Geo. So whatever a scientist tells me is most likely going to happen, and with how we got here, I'm going to believe them. Even though I was, like I mentioned, born religious, or born in the religion, not religious. I'm not a religious person at all, and I don't identify as a Christian. So it's great to address these kind of stories. But the story of Ehud, and I will listen to it. Trust me, I will. Tomorrow I'll be driving a lot, so I'm going to probably put it on. But Ehud is one because it's got that, like, it's almost like it's a story of like about sexuality. It's about promiscuous like adventures with men, and because back then I don't think they would consider themselves gay or lesbian or anything like that. It was just more of like a sexual thing, because you have Sodom and Gomorrah that was told to be just men raping men. And am I allowed to say that? Dang, I can't say certain. I don't know what I can't say on YouTube, but abusing men physically, I guess I would say. I gotta figure that stuff out. And so that kind of stuff gets tossed around in the Bible very heavily, and honestly, very visual. And why churches overlook it beats me, because I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned in it. But I think visually I could tell the story and make it pretty hardcore, to the point where people just can't deny some of the scenes of like epic battles and you know, Samson and Delilah, David and Goliath. These are modern. These are like the easiest things to talk about, I guess, from the Christian perspective of writing stories and stuff. And you obviously see David and Goliath everywhere, and Samson and Delilah, mainly Samson. But I want to talk about all the other stories that they're missing out on. Like the Book of Enoch is a book that has the Watchers and the angels and demons that are described to be so hardcore that, I can't deny not wanting to draw that one. So I hope Image Comics would be willing to produce one, but I also have to think about whether or not I want to allow them to. Mainly because if in which it does get picked up and they want me to do more, they're pretty strict on deadlines, and they're very strict on their pay. I'm sure comic book artists that work for them don't make that much money. I may just go the route of Kickstarter or Indiegogo and having my own production company produce it. And that way it stays within my realm of time frames and ability to create it. So, there's a lot to think about there. Oh yeah, TF, I know you were here yesterday, but kind of filled in a little bit more details with Wolverine. I know he was very bland yesterday, but I couldn't let him sit there without some details. And especially hairy arms. I needed those hairy arms, man. And if you haven't checked it out yet already, TF is a fantastic artist who did Dazzler the other day. Very good Dazzler, too. Makes me want to go to a disco. Anywho, so those are the things that I'm trying to think out. And if you have any ideas about some stories in the Bible, if you've read it or not, that you think would be good to make, send them to me. Please do. Like, I will definitely read it over and consider it, because the Ehud one, let's say I do put it out and Top Cow or Image takes it. They may want to change a few things, and I don't know if I want to allow them to change it. I know it's going to give me a lot more publicity and a lot more value to my name, but I don't really draw for that kind of stuff. I draw because I have my own stories to tell. Kind of like Keanu Reeves. He hired some people to do his comic book Berserker. And wait, does Berserker Image? Nah, Berserker is Boom. Which, look at that cover. Hardcore. Keanu Reeves living out his best life now, Yeah, no problem. Do your thing, TF. Do your thing. I'll be here. So, yeah. So I don't know if they're going to want to do it or not. I know it's pretty tough to get into Image, but I'm really pondering whether or not I should do Kickstarter. I think I will, just because I think it's going to be easier for me to get it off the ground. I can pull two different audiences, that of the religious people and those of the non-religious people, both. And I don't know. Maybe Daniel. Yeah, what's funny is I was saying that earlier in this video, I have a comic book that says she on it. I didn't even realize that. It's right behind me, too. Right there. Should have known better. But I actually detailed him a lot more, just to give you guys holding too tight for the about my storyline. You're probably right. I am holding on tight, and the only reason why. So that's kind of where I was going to get to, actually, was that I could use Image to start putting out my first one and get known a little bit. Right. The market does. The market definitely does, and I will have to bend towards them, and Image would definitely help me get there, I'm sure. But mm, it's kind of tough because, as I showed the earlier comics, like Made in Korea and some of the other ones, they they definitely they look great. They definitely attracted me to buy it, and I purchased it. But then I felt empty after watching it. I mean, reading it, I didn't feel like I got my money's worth in some of them, and that's just because that's me as a reader, right? It doesn't mean that's the whole audience of comic book lovers. The audience I want to get a grasp of are the people who are, who kind of want both worlds of both the religious comic and that who just want an awesome looking comic book. So my comic won't actually look. And you're right. This would be another experience, and that's why. So what if I did produce one for Image? It would be a story that I didn't feel too. Uh, I could be kind of like free to play with and do stuff with. That's why I'm asking you guys for some stories actually, because I've already been planning for a very long time, almost decades now, of creating this comic book of the entire Bible verse by verse. And if you've seen my other drawings, like it's going to look a lot like this one here. So this is a piece I've done of the indigenous Columbus arriving and kind of having an effect on people. So this is what my comic book style would be for the full Bible, which would include every single book that wasn't even included in the Bible, like the Book of Enoch, Gospel of Mary, all these kind of Gnostic books, and ones that are in the Catholic, and blah 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 blah. I will probably avoid the Mormon stuff, more modern stuff, but more of the ancient text has a way to. I want to create a comic that has a different vibe altogether. Not even a comic book where there's a lot of text and there's very simplified drawing. No, I want to do something that has such complexity to it that will truly allow the viewer to rip it out of the page and say, well, this is a piece on its own. It doesn't even need any dialogue. I get what it's saying. And then they can just find new little things in it all the time that kind of represent the historical and the imaginative part of magic underwear. I'm still curious about that. I just watching something the other day where they were talking about the magic underwear and how many Mormons don't even know about that. I thought that was hilarious. Kind of reminds me of Scientology. How many Scientologists, like I'm not too far from the I used to work literally beside the Scientology building, so I saw the guys all the time, and then the people who get on the bus, and they looked miserable. I felt so bad for them, but most of them don't know really. Yeah, lots of Easter eggs, but they don't really know what they're really doing. I think I can almost swear it. I've looked at them in the eyes and like, I'm confused on what you're doing. And they've looked at me going, I don't know what I'm doing, like, and I'm like, I don't think you know what you believe in, bud. Otherwise, if you found out what the result of all this was, I think you would probably drop out. But the power of conversion in the weak mind is a very, very dangerous thing. But, they need love too. They've got some issues they got to work out. I couldn't serve that hardcore and not get paid. That's crazy. They're wild. Anywho. Cradle to grave. I don't know why a lot of that exists, but you got to kind of think of it. I think of it this way, is that like the Mormons and the Scientology stuff is kind of like a comic book in themselves that you've convinced enough people to believe in, right? Like imagine if Dune had some agenda to make people believe that Dune was real, even though Dune probably is more real than the rest of this nonsense, just by political standards. But I don't know. I find it strange that there's so many versions of the Bible and there's so many different aspects of how people teach it. Kind of blows my mind. And then when you confront people about it, oh man, they cannot handle it. It's like their brain blows up. just like. So that's why the drawing is so important to me. I want to walk with them a little bit and share their love for the creative aspects of their religion, but also show them, a different aspect of reality, I guess. Not that it's reality. I'm going to have to state 1,000 times over that most of it is not reality. But, it makes great content. Is that so? To marry a secret wife? I haven't heard that one before. That's interesting. It's funny because I was raised on King James, and actually it's my favorite version because it's so poetic. The way it's like thou art thy whatever brother's keeper or whatever. But my grandmother's a super King James and Pentecostal. So I try to tell her that, it's not a perfect book. And she literally thinks God himself came down and wrote that thing. And I'm like, Granny, even my father and some of my other family members have no way of actually comprehending that. I'm like, you don't actually believe that God spoke in these and thous and in English at that. The book was written in Greek and Hebrew, and Jesus even spoke Aramaic. How did you come across to thinking that's what was written? They're like, well, the Bible says so. I'm like, well, the Bible says so. Like, well, crud, I'll just go edit it real quick to say that it doesn't, and then you can get back on track. Like, I think that's what they should do. I think that part where it says that in the Bible, which was placed in much later, they should take that part out. Honestly, where the don't cross your T, no, what does it say? Like, no T shall be taken out, or no dot or iota should be taken away. They should take that out of the Bible. I'm sorry. It's destructive to the society and to everything pretty much, because people just go like, oh, it's real. The 4 horsemen will come, which will be a great part to draw to. I mean, I don't doubt it. He probably did do it for reasons that are obscure. I know that from what I heard, there's a lot of death surrounding the creation of that thing, but people won't agree with you. So I think drawing it out would be very fun. I'm excited to draw it out, and I'm going to do the full Bible, but I mentioned before, it's going to take like a bunch of artists to help me. It's probably going to take about 40 years to do it, to my calculation, if I'm going to do it right. In every book, in every paragraph, in every sentence, and pretty much every sentence being captured in it, and plus all the studying that has to go with it, and then But so if I can find a story that is very cool, it's something I don't mind letting go, and then people who move on from the Image comic book that it gets produced, if it gets produced, into saying, oh, well, Josh is going to go create his own version, even though it's the same story, even if it's like, let's say Samson that I put out, maybe his version of Samson later on, I'm okay with jumping into that world, even though he's already created a small world of it, for Image. Yeah, something like that. So I'm trying to find a story. Revelation would be cool. The end of the world has a lot of cool stuff to it that I could do, but it's been kind of done. So I'm trying to find something new. Ehud is a good one. There's another story of some judges that are pretty awesome. Let's see. Man, I don't know. So yeah, if you have any ideas, if you've ever thought of a story that'd be kind of dope to put into a comic book that you would like to see that's dark and image-worthy, Image Comics, or even Boom. Maybe I'll go for Boom now that I remember that they do it. Definitely throw it my way. That would be cool, but that's a task. That is quite the task. I think the Flood would be kind of cool. I think it's a very violent story. But I just don't want to draw a bunch of animals, honestly. Maybe if it was a flood without the boat and the animals, everyone just dies. But I have to take into account to the Nephilim that survived the flood, which I think a lot of people don't realize that, are religious. That once the flood happened, it wasn't like everyone got wiped out and Noah was the only person left. There was enough people to get married to his daughter. His son had to get married to somebody, and then the Nephilim with David and Goliath. Goliath was supposed to be an ancestor of the Nephilim. So, obviously there was still more groups. So a global flood is validated not to have really have happened when you actually read the Bible. But I see so many scholars that say, oh, the flood actually did happen. I'm like, what are y'all on? Like, the Bible right there verifies it didn't happen. At least not where everyone died. I don't know. I'm not a scholar. But I do enjoy learning that stuff. So I pretty much spend 5 hours a day just listening to lectures. And, one of my favorite dudes is Bart D. Ehrman. He does, he used to be an evangelical fundamental Christian. And then he was like, well, this doesn't make sense, because he's also a scholar of the New Testament. And he's like, well, this is archaeologically and historically inaccurate. But it's weird. It's weird. I love it, though. It's great because it's taught me a lot of stuff about different books that I, just didn't really realize had good story to it and good connections, like the Gospel of Judas and all these other things. Dude, actually, that's a good point. I like that. That's nice. The idea that dinosaur bones are Nephilim bones, that would be wild. Dude, that's a good idea. Actually, that's gold right there. You just gave me gold. Thank you, Pepe. You gave me some gold. Ooh. My brain is already working. That's nice. Huh. Interesting. Can that work? Now, you are onto something. That would be fun to draw if the dinosaurs, the bone construction, were also hyper intelligent Nephilim, angels that had fallen, or something of that nature, and maybe the great battle is what took them out until the great flood kind of crushed them all down into fossils. What could I do with that? Lincoln, did he? Did he really? I didn't hear about that. That's crazy. Did he? What? There was a speech he talked about giants in the sea? Then again, it is Lincoln. He probably did. Yeah, he probably did. I didn't hear about that, but that's wild to hear. Huh. I believe there was gigantic sea monsters and creatures for sure. I like the idea of trolls too. Many Scandinavian cultures have that whole troll mythology and lore. Love it. It's in his famous speech, really? Man, I'm out of touch with it, dude. Okay. I'll have to look into that one. What does he mention about the giants, though? He just mentions them, or is he trying to encourage the army to be like, these guys are like giants to us, and we will take them down, or something like that? What a beast Lincoln is. He's such a good vampire killer. Slayer. I like Lincoln. It's kind of sad that that actor Daniel Day-Lewis doesn't do anymore, because he's such a good actor. I would love to see him play like a Dark Knight bad guy, something serious, but in the comic book realm. Maybe not. I don't know. He's too good for that. Maybe. Yeah, I'll locate it. Pixies the elves. Yeah. I love me some elves. Created a card game that had some elves in it. That was like my favorite part to draw was the elves and the. I actually didn't even enjoy the orcs, just the elves. Card game called Fragments with a Z. Didn't make its Kickstarter point, but you know we live and learn. Anywho, that's good stuff to know though. I'm gonna have to look into that Lincoln thing when he talks about it. Now, where am I at? Here we go. The Smithsonian Institute rids of all evidence of early history. I went to the Smithsonian once. I like how it's. I saw an argument about them saying that all those dinosaur bones were just created to create the illusion of dinosaurs existing and stuff. Well, this was from a creationist was arguing with a evolutionist. I think Dawkins, and I'm surprised he didn't. I was so frustrated with her because Dawkins was like, he's like, well, how can you say that evolution's not real when we have kind of a lot of evidence for it, you know? And she's like, well, you know, things all have to start from something, a designer. And he's like, well, why? Like, is the designer not just the fact that, you know, a single cell organism was created? And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense, you know. But she just couldn't get it. She couldn't wrap her head around it. Strange to me, because even if you do believe in evolution, it shouldn't defer from the idea of a God existing, because God, I suppose, could exist outside of all of this bubble of a universe we live in and have really no true attention to us on Earth as the only beings, especially if we do find out aliens are verifiably real, which there's more evidence for aliens than there is for most of the stuff in the Bible. Hey, Rob. You're to play I Am Champion? Yeah, I apologize. I have been seeing some of y'all's chat on here pop up. Oh, I just saw this. Someone said it doesn't let me register my deck into the void mode. Ugh. Okay, sorry guys. Yeah, this is where I'm at because I do have to upkeep my artistic skills just like Jesse does. So I spend about an hour a day doing a live stream. But, you know, tomorrow is the day that we do the tournament. So that's when I'll be on to judge and make sure everything's running smoothly. I am also editing after this the video of how to actually film yourself and play the game. The website, honestly, is giving me a lot more issues than I thought. You can actually message the guy on Discord. Sorry, creatives. Let me sidetrack real quick. You can actually message in the mug and tell him what's up, and he'll go in and fix it because he's been having to refix some stuff, and I think it's because their developers are doing some things with their whole entire format. I don't really know, but look, it's only you and a few other players. The chances of you winning first, second, and third and getting those prizes are almost guaranteed at this point. So we'll make it happen. And we'll probably, if it doesn't work, let's say the website's just failing hardcore, I'm going to move everyone over to Discord and just start playing the tournament straight on and just tell people, hey, if you're there, sign up, hit me up that you're playing. I will jump on right then and there because tomorrow I'm going to dedicate strictly to I Am Champion. Yeah. Yeah, in the motion, he'll be able to help you right away. I think he works all day, every day. He's a developer, so you know, developer life. If not, I'll get in there in about 45 minutes to help everyone get ready for the tournament. I do apologize. And you found out my little secret hideout. YouTube. So yeah, so for the most part, that's what I've been pondering all day. So starting tomorrow, after I do the tournament and stuff, or maybe I'll even do it before, I'll get on live stream, and I'm gonna actually start writing. Um, I mean, I kind of need to decide. Thanks, Rob. I need to start deciding which story I want to start developing, and who I want Image Comics to submit, what I want to submit to Image Comics. It does not mean Image Comics will pick it up. Obviously, they could be like, "Who are you? We don't care about you." Um, but I'm gonna go in this as in with full hopes and with full determination, really thinking like, okay, I want to make this thing work. I want to show that I can actually pull something off. Um, So that's my goal. That is my intention. Starting tomorrow, my live stream will switch over from drawing like finished products and trying to complete some pieces into more of like, here's the process, the full every moment I work on it process of how to create a comic book and get it Image to accept it. And if they don't accept it, then well, you know, their loss. I'll make it on a Kickstarter or something like that, and make it affordable. And if anything fails, and let's just say I can't get it off the ground whatsoever, then my first one will be just a free issue that'll go out to people for fun. You know, not a loss for me because, as you see, YouTube is going to be kind of my main thing. What on earth? Come on, man. Camera batteries. Just no fun. Okay, we're back on. Here we go. Rainbow Electric. There we go. Sorry about that for a split second there. I always forget to charge my batteries. Luckily, I had one on hand. So yeah, I do agree with you, Pepe, that I should be able to kind of let loose a little bit on my control of my comic, and it's good to just have it out there and let the market kind of tell me what's up. But nowadays comic books are kind of swaying back and forth on their markets and what people read and stuff. I think the market that's been most untouched is the Christian community, the religious communities, in a way that they probably won't agree with it. They probably actually will avoid advertising it to their own community. But I'm going to try. I think when I was a kid, like I said, these were the things I imagined. I had planned out the entire Bible in my head and all the different stories and the ways I saw it, because it wasn't just Noah's Ark, right? To me, it was, well, they always spoke about angels and demons in heaven and hell battling for our souls. Well, I'm like, well, okay, well, what was the battle for Noah then? What was the demon saying? What was Lucifer doing? Obviously he had some chill time with God, because he says it when in the book of Job, he goes to heaven and has a chit chat while God's having like a round table discussion with his homeboys. Like, what? Like, I know that's ridiculous. That people they pass over that those Bible verses in Job and all this stuff, because they can't actually comprehend it. I really believe when you're over religious and you've succumbed to the fantasies that your pastor has just drilled into your brain, you forget to have critical thinking and logic attend to it. So when you read these passages, they just become kind of like allegories or things that kind of, or metaphors even, to encourage your walk with Jesus. It's like always about Jesus. Well, like, come on, Jesus wasn't around until much later than the Old Testament was talking about things. So these kind of things I've wanted to do and produce about the stories of the angels and demons fighting and battling for the souls of humans while creating the storms and the flood, while David and Goliath, like Goliath, if he was really the bad guy, like, honestly, what about his childhood? You know how awkward it must have been being as big as he was and as strong as he was, right? Like, gotta have a little bit of sympathy for the guy, and for him to be the head honcho they pull out in the middle of a battle, like he must have been a little bit like, well, I'm tough stuff, but you know, these guys could launch 1,000 arrows at me and I can't really dodge it. So there's a lot of stuff that I want to kind of portray, but then also the angelic perspective, the heaven perspective of heaven and hell, and how that intertwines with these stories. Um, and I want to make angels so darn scary, because the Bible says, I mean, every time an angel comes out, they have to tell the human, "Fear not." And everyone thinks, "Oh, fear not," because like there's a great message coming your way. No, 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 no. The Bible definitely mentions angels being terrifying. Um, they also seem as humans at one point because they're walking around in like cloaked, and then they get into Sodom and Gomorrah and people want to destroy them. But when it talks about Ezekiel, these angels and these cherubim and all these things are pretty terrifying. And I mean, you would think that there'd be these pretty beautiful blonde-haired creatures with wings or something as they're portrayed, but definitely not. And in fact, the demons are probably more or less like that, since King Solomon in the Lesser Keys of Solomon, in other scripts, Solomon summons demons to build the temple of God, and they turn into these beautiful women that seduce him, and they get the job done. But he's like, man, this was a bad idea, and the magic that he had to create around that is kind of spectacular, because he had symbols and all this kind of cool stuff. Right. So yeah, Goliath would be a half breed and he would be an offspring. But then we'd have to think of like, who was the father and how was that? If he's a half breed, the other guy must have been a full breed. Unless there was two half breeds. But then if there are two half breeds, who were they? And how strong were they? And did they gain different knowledge? I mean, what were the powers of the Nephilim? Just being big? I mean, the idea that some of this would be dinosaur bones is kind of cool. I really like that thought. That's interesting. I'm going to actually dwell on that one right there, to see what I can create with that and kind of build it. Because I get the opportunity, as creating a comic book, I could really do anything. I just want to keep it somewhat honest to the, Hebrew text and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's going to be fun. I think tomorrow I'm going to have to choose one and just get it out there. Let my first failure happen, because that's one of the things I've learned, is that you need to learn to fail fast. And otherwise I wouldn't be doing live streams. Live streams are kind of my failure fast stuff. It's not perfect art. It's not super hyper detailed, like I like, as you saw before with my other piece. And it was just kind of a way for me to let my brain release all the information that I have going on in the day. So I think this will be a cool start. You'll get to see me draw out some characters and kind of design them according to archaeological studies and historical studies of what they might have worn, but also develop the angels, so I need to find a small snippet story like Ehud, or something that I can submit to they say you only need a 5-page drawing setup of sequential panels going together to submit to them, but I want to submit to them an actual at least like 12 pages, and I don't have to hide anything from them because the story will be already written in the Bible kind of stuff, and I have to give them the ending anyways. But I think this would be a great way for me to figure out what I'm doing wrong, have the audience, you guys, tell me what you think is wrong with it and educate me. I don't know everything, obviously. But also to kind of see the process that way. So if anyone ever wants to go back and see where I went wrong, or get encouraged on how to do their own, they would have the YouTube live stream just straight up. And then, I can label it 1, 2, and 3. So it's great. Instead of making a final edit and trying to be a teacher, like, how YouTubers will just be like, well, this is how you do this and this. And that, that means I will have to do that. But after I've actually completed it and attempted it would be best. So that's tonight. What tonight was about was kind of going through some of my favorite comic books. So Saga here, I mean, this is so big, it's ridiculous. Man, I always turn to pages with like nudity on it and stuff, which is no fun. But like, this is simple drawings, And I think I could pump out simple stuff like this faster. Not the problem is I'm not a good color artist, so I can't. I'm not going to do color. I'm just straight up not going to do it. You can't change my mind on it. I'm not a color artist. I'm gonna. That's why I do such high detailed inking. Is because I avoid the color. Um, but drawing like this to me is fine, especially when you have a big story and the viewer has something pretty to look at. You know, they can turn the page and go, oh, okay, so they don't need so much detail because it tells the story quickly. You're trying to make them move through the dialogue and move through the essence of the story. Like the kid's face is hardly drawn. Everything's very simple and plain. Compared to this style, which is more realistic and nice. And what if the whole book was that? Would it make it better or not? Probably. I don't know. I don't know if it would. But I know that this is one heck of a heavy book. But I'm going to pursue a short, small story. I need to find out what it's going to be. I was hoping to end this on knowing what I was going to do, but it doesn't look like I'm going to get to that point. I guess tomorrow we'll find out again, or maybe I'll have discovered something. But if you guys have anything like another story, throw a couple out there for me, and I'll research them tonight and tomorrow after the card games tournament, and go from there. Just start drawing out some character design and writing down some plots and ways I want to make it move. I did a comic book in high school. It didn't really go far because I got sidetracked. But I've read enough comic books. I've lived the comic book life. I'm not a super genius to comic books. I really am not. But this is how I get back into the game and figure things out with you guys, because you guys are amazing and you have the knowledge I don't have, right? And get to put something out, and hopefully it gets put out. I can give you guys the greatest thanks ever, and this will be something that was somewhat collaborative and fun to be a part of for both me and you guys. I don't know. I just know that I'm not going to sit on it anymore. I've been sitting on it way too long. I'm tired of sitting around and not producing. I have a few projects I still have to work on, such as, my board game, card game is still producing heavy, and we've got some really cool stuff happening soon, which I'm very, very excited about the board game, because today alone we created a style of a mode to play the board game that is just going to be just knockout fun for battle cards. But that's for another time and not for this channel. And then I have my documentary that I'm working on with the indigenous communities and tribes in Canada and North America that we're working on. Put out a teaser, so that's good. And then, of course, my own art as an artist, which is my passion, my love, my way to express my thoughts. And yeah. So thank you, Daniel. So there's a lot going on in my life right now, but it's not enough that I can't do it. And if there is too much, I'll chop one in half and scoot it aside, which I've done pretty much. So at this point, my art, my film, and my game is my world, as well as my dog and wife, of course. But I really, 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 really appreciate all of you who watch this, because it shows me that, hey, there are people out there who do like my art and do like watching my stuff and don't hate my terrible speaking habits and lack of knowledge. And as Daniel and TF may know, I pretty much ask questions about who that person is. So I'm gonna have to start doing like a game show. I'm like, who's that person again? And then whoever answers it first, I give them points. Because I can't draw and remember things at the same time. I'm too busy thinking about shadows and lines and where to go from here. So anyways, that's it for tonight. I really thank you, Pepe, Rob, Daniel, TF, and I don't know if Katze is still on, but thank you too. And yeah, remember, if you got any of those ideas, throw them on the chat or send me a message somehow. I've got Instagram at exo.chocolam is one of them, or you can do Inktologist. It's not Inkology, it's Inktologist because Inktology was apparently taken. But yeah, send me a message somehow. We're on YouTube if you can do that. Can you send YouTube messages? Yeah, you can just comment down below. Thank you guys. And remember, if you're a creative, go out and create because that's what we do. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you again.